This is Starting Point, a podcast that tracks Guyana's unprecedented growth from all vantage points. Join your hosts, Kiana Wilberg and Fariza Hanif, as they dive deep into the heart of topical issues.
Welcome to this week's episode of Starting Point. I am your host, Kiana Wilberg, and I'm joined by co-host Ms. Fariza Hanif. Today, the discussion will be a bit different, but nonetheless important. We place the spotlight on issues affecting men, women, children, and the elderly. And what better person to help us discuss many of these important issues than the Minister responsible for Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Persaud. Minister, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Kiana and Fariza. Both of you, it's a pleasure to be here on your program, Starting Point.
Thank you, Minister. Now, I know that I noted in my introduction that there are a number of important issues regarding these groups that we want to discuss. But before we get into that, I want to give you the opportunity to reflect on some of the notable achievements during your first term within this ministry and how you have been able to change lives in terms of security as well as empowerment for these groups.
Thank you for that, Kiana. And it is something that I looked at immediately when I got into the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, looking comprehensively at the country and at the ministry and where we were in terms of programs that would impact tangibly on vulnerable populations, and also looking at strengthening or building systems to have a very structured output where we have measurable indicators of what we were able to achieve. And I will say that in every one of these areas, there were major achievements. And I'll start with the one that's the most recent, and it was closest to my heart in the last couple of years, and that is working with children. We tackled it in many ways. We looked at the safety, security of children, and I came up with a slogan for it, and that was keeping every child safe, because essentially that's what we ought to be doing, whether children are in schools or communities or any other space. And with doing that, it brought to the table the importance of a coordinated approach to many issues, and also the importance of bringing the communities, families, and the ministry together to have an effective approach to very serious things like cases of child abuse. And so very recently, we started the Children's Advocacy Network, and this is working with people across Guyana, training them in ways in which they could support the work of the ministry so they can identify red flags when it has to do with child abuse, work to support us if it is providing temporary shelter, it is reporting to us, and doing the reporting in a responsible way. Because what we've seen with social media, many things are on social media, and I keep emphasizing when it comes to children in particular, we should not re-traumatize. While I know everyone wants to help, there are avenues of reporting. So it's getting from the media system to the average person out there who wants to say, this is happening and we need to get help. So getting that going, and also looking at our homes and ensuring that we have the capacity to cater for children who need shelter, expanding our foster care program, looking at adoption in a very major way. Mm-hmm. So we've managed to do all of those, and adoption would have been bolstered by the addition of new legislation where we focused on intercountry adoption, utilizing the Hague Convention. So we are now a Hague Convention ready country to ensure that adoption proceeds in alignment with the Hague Convention. And we have, for the first time in Guyana, a central authority that does that. And just before elections in 2025, another piece of important legislation speaking about cross-border issue of child protection was tabled by me in Parliament and supported like the previous one. So the Central Authority is now empowered to look at intercountry adoption as well as child protection issues. There are other pieces of legislation in draft that speak to maintenance and support, for example. So those will be coming later on the legislative agenda. And then there was this specific issue that I wanted to look at, and that was early childhood development. And we were looking at the age specifically. Early childhood speaks to an age range from 0 to 8 years old. But that bit from 4 to 8 would have been dealt with by Ministry of Education in the formal education system. So it's looking at that 0 to 3 years, 9-month gap and how we could work with parents, with children, and develop an entire ecosystem to cater for understanding the needs of children, their developmental milestones, and also looking at how we can work with parents and children to have effective parenting. So out of that came a parenting manual for trainers. And when I wanted to see this happen, people are going to say, we know how to parent. Why do you need that? But I also believe that parents need that extra and that extra support, because you have children with special needs, you have children who are very different. Discipline becomes abuse if not done the right way.
Correct.
And so all of that went into this. And then I wanted, when we worked with the parents, not just to have a class, but to have something to take home where they can refer to. So there came the parenting workbook. And then all of this was amalgamated to complement the early childhood development system that we were trying to build. So we came up and we completed the National Integrated Early Childhood Development Policy. We also have the National Integrated Early Childhood Development Program. We also came up with a training program for persons who wanted to venture into early childhood development. We had our first early childhood development practitioners conference, and this was building on work done through WIN when it started in 2021, where we trained persons in levels 1 and 2 of child care. So then through this, we were able to train them in level 3 for early childhood development. We were able to incentivize 100 persons after being trained to set up early childhood centers in the community. And that's something I'm going to build on this year, because I'm very passionate about having care centers in communities. And I was so happy that His Excellency continues to mention this, because care and the care economy is very important to any country. If we want to empower women to venture into the labor force, if we want to give parents the opportunity to get out there and really utilize their whole potential. So coming out of this early childhood development initiative, we were able to help those women to start using our home-based care policy, which was a new policy for ISA. And that is going to morph into where I want to see it go. I had initial discussions working with the private sector, building public-private partnerships so that every employment agency has a care center. We're providing the personnel, we're providing the training. It could be a woman developing her own business but partnering with the company, or a woman in a consortium with other women and men. I'm a big advocate of consortiums, starting it in their communities. But it is not just care. It is care that is tailored for the community, care where we train people, and care where we monitor and assess them as well. So they have to meet standards. And that brought us to the next level, and we were able to take 10 of these to centers of excellence. So it has been a very comprehensive program, and you will see more of that being built out. And I think the highlight was when His Excellency and I were able to open the first day-night care and early childhood center, changing the landscape of care in the country. We've had daycares. That's not a new phenomenon. And I remember telling this story that 3 years ago, there was a lady who lost 3 of her children to fire. She went out to work and the children got into trouble, and I sat with her for a few nights. I went to the funeral, and that graphic image will never leave my mind. And so going to a conference in Latin America, they asked what we were going to do on care. And I got up and I started to speak on day-night care and early childhood. And they said, "Where's the paper?" I said, "It will get to you." But I hadn't written a thing, but it was just a concept I had. And so that's where we plan to go with this, so that no longer will people have to worry about care. No longer. The whole system will be catering for them. So that was one. And then, of course, everyone knows about the Women's Innovation Investment Network. To date, we have trained 19,736 women across the country. 35% of them have started their own businesses. 28% of them have gained employment. And we're working on more public and private sector employers utilizing the skills of these women, recognizing the certification, because in conceptualizing the WIN program and rolling it out in 2021, the idea was not just to train, because you have a lot of training programs. One, to make it free. Two, to make it women-centric. Three, to remove the barriers so that there is no prerequisite for women to enter the program. Three, to make it no age limit necessary. So we've managed to do that, and we have been training in every region. We have also used a hybrid model to train, and we are also utilizing the funding opportunities that present themselves to us. Like, women were able to benefit from World Food Programs, business grants, stimulus. We pay for women to register their business. We have a brand new business incubator that was opened in late 2021. And so women have access to quality control, marketing, and packaging, and business literacy, financial development, when the business clinics, all of that is built into the WIN program. And then came the idea of how, in addition to the accredited programs that we were offering in partnership with Nations Inc., with UK ABMA certification, Action Invest, and Reutech with UE certification, how could we add to that? And so I met with Coursera and pioneered the Coursera programs in Guyana, where there were stackable courses which allowed us private authorship. And so we were able to see levels 1, 2, 3 of different programs being offered on the online platform. This was able to take us very much in a very, I would say, strategic way in the hinterland, where as you know, government is expanding its digital footprint and having all these hubs and putting in the hands of women. If you're home, you have to look after your child. You just are not able to go out. You have access to these programs at home. You can be qualified. We have WhatsApp groups set up to help women. But I know you probably want to ask me a lot, but
Yes.
I would say those are two of many, and I'm happy to share as we go through the program, the other major things that we would have accomplished.
Yeah. Yes, Minister, I'm happy that you expounded on what is really being done to not just transform the way in which women are able to contribute to society and to give them that access. But I also appreciate the time that you took to explain that it's all part of this new concept called the care economy. And if I got that right, I mean, we've heard about the blue economy, the orange economy, and now we're hearing this strategic approach, which is the care economy. Are you working to build out, strengthen that, and perhaps present it to the public, or have some sort of consultation with the public? Because I think this is a new concept. It's interesting, and I know people would love to engage you on it.
I will definitely be doing that. And ahead of, or just after, we opened the second day night care and early childhood development center. The first was in Region 3. The next one will be in Region 4. And I want to do it because we are creating, and we have created, the support network to enable the care economy to flourish. And we have seen the dividends of that, putting women into jobs where they're their own bosses, and I love to see that, and also really providing a needed skill and service where you are empowering not only the women to have jobs, but you're providing for single parents and parents in general to have a service that they so badly need, especially the night care service, because we know our country is developing at an unparalleled pace, and we want to ensure that no one's skill is underutilized because they have to look at care of their children. And every parent will want to know that their child is safe. So putting that service in a particular place of employ, or putting it in their community where they're confident because the ministry is monitoring. The ministry has developed the system and we're working with parents. I think it's a good thing. So you'll see those consultations going up because we want more people to jump on board. And the other aspect of care not only focuses on children, would be elder care. And
Beautiful.
as you know, the PALMS institution currently has 151 persons. That is the only state-owned care center for the elderly. Our government's plan is to build out more of these across varying regions. Perhaps Region 4 might be the largest. And it is my intention, and I hope I will be able to do it sooner rather than later, to gradually remove persons from the PAM. That institution is an ancient institution.
Correct.
And it requires every year in the budget an injection of funding to ensure that it is structurally sound. It challenges us and so many other things. And the full capacity could never really be used because the building itself is so old.
It's so old. And
We've been
Yeah.
doing work on it,
Correct.
but it needs way more than we can do. So that's something.
Just
And
phasing it out.
yeah, I'd like to see that happen. And I'd also like to see people parallel what we're doing for children. We've trained a significant number of women across all the regions in patient care and elder care. So the home-based care initiative, I would like to see that kick in because it is really allowing persons to deliver care at home and also care in the institutions and work with the elderly too to make sure that they are engaged socially, because a lot of older people are at home and they're not engaged. So we started a new program and we have developed since 6 hubs, the Golden Generation hubs. And these hubs engage elders or seniors 2 to 3 times a week. We piloted it in Victoria, and we are bringing the elders out for several things: bridging the digital divide, working with the National Library to train them in digital literacy, also working with them on health, wellness, and overall well-being. You will see me before the end of the year doing some exercise sessions with the seniors, getting them into types of exercise that are good for them: Tai Chi, yoga, that kind of thing, to work on their joints and bones. You will also see them doing a lot of recreational activities. This month is Month of the Elderly. We had a very nice session at the Roundhouse at the Seawall on the 2nd of October. And so the idea is to take people out of their homes and to also discuss very important things like elder abuse. It happens. Sometimes it is right in front of our faces and we don't see it. And many times they don't know how to report it. We do have the 914 hotline, but it is letting them know you are experiencing it. And it's simple things: financial starvation, where they don't have any economic injection into their lives. People take away their pension books. People don't feed them. There are lots of things like that. And my personal pet peeve is where a lot of seniors are signing over their properties to their family members. Now, don't get me wrong, I know that's their personal choice, but we see the fallout of it, where 2 weeks after someone signs over their entire house, they're on the road.
Wow.
They're abandoned at Hugo Chavez. And something else, we see a lot of dumping of seniors, whether at the hospitals or at any of our institutions. My thing is, if you know you can't care for your parent, come and talk to us and let's find a good solution for your parent. Don't dump them on the road because they're left out there to survive.
And many of them are left unidentified as well at the
Absolutely.
hospital.
Well, we now have a very good coordinated system with GPHC, where we're working with them. We have been doing it at the night shelter. That's where a lot of the indigent and homeless go, where they come on board. They've been doing surgeries for us. We have eye care happening regularly. The infectious unit is there. The dental unit is there, because what people don't know, when persons come at the night shelter, we can't confine them. The law is very old, and that's something we need to look at. We cannot lock people up, and we shouldn't be locking people up. They're free to leave. But while they're there, they not only have shelter and meals, and this was the first place. I remember visiting as the first place when I became a minister in 2020, and I was horrified at what I saw. I couldn't believe people were putting anyone in there. the conditions were deplorable.
Yeah, you published those photos, and it was indeed
It was horrible.
Mhm.
So we have refurbished the entire place. There's an increased capacity, and whether it's the Palms, Night Shelter, Hugo Chavez, we're continuing that coordinated approach, having them assess people for mental health challenges. How can we help them better? How can they access healthcare, looking at people who are there because maybe it's substance abuse, so it's not an organic issue, how they can get care, and also looking at things that we can actually fix for a person. It might be an eye care issue, it might be anything else surgical, and working in that line to make sure they have holistic care. But it really comes back to families out there and people being caring. I mean, there's no other way to put it. People being caring and not just taking from the older folk and leaving them to. I tell them, I always say to them, I say, tell anybody if they have a problem, come and talk to me. When I go out there, I say, don't sign over. Stay in your house, live there, and make a will.
Correct.
We must promote the will making thing so that people are not left on their own.
Minister, a lot of your programs must be commended at the ministry. I mean, word does not get out as much as it should because there's so much that you're doing, and you're focused on, like you said, the care economy, the children, the elderly. But there's something that's near and dear to you as well, and that's domestic violence. And we're in Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And a lot of issues come to the fore during this time, a lot of awareness as well. But one of the things, it's statistics. And people always ask how many of our women have been killed. And one thing I want to know, how many have been killed from 2020 to now? And what are some of the programs that your ministry has implemented to help victims of domestic abuse and violence?
Fraser, you are absolutely right when you say it's very close to my heart. Some days when I see women being killed or injured, and we've seen a spate of that in recent time, it has me very depressed for days and weeks. And I think to myself, when we're putting so many things in place, why is this happening? And every life for me is an important one. It's not a statistic or a number. It never has been for me. In fact, I take it quite personally. And many times you are right. I go to visit a lot of people and I don't publish anything, whether children or women, because I always believe in maintaining the dignity of a person and their confidentiality. Maybe the public will say it's a bad thing because the minister needs to have the PR to show that she went. But I like to do it quietly and sit with people. And when I came in 2020, there was literally no system because there was a sexual offenses, domestic violence policy unit.
Right.
So it was more dealing with policy. Reports were made at a police station. And yes, they had some sort of arrangement. But when I came in, I looked at it holistically. What was missing? Avenues of reporting. Reporting that people could be confident something is happening after they made the report. Reporting where we were able to collect data to drive policy and to develop programs after this. But reporting was key. And we had to build among people the confidence to report. Not only the person who was experiencing violence, but the people around them. And that's still a struggle we have. Sometimes you read the newspaper when someone passes or someone gets hurt, and you will see. I tend to go to the bottom and read before I read the top. You will always see, we knew.
Yeah.
We knew. And many times I sit with survivors' families. I remember sitting with the families of a lady who was stabbed 32 times. And I asked them, I said, what happened there? And you get things like, she wanted to protect the gentleman or the partner. We made several reports, but she kept going back to say that don't press further. And I don't believe at all in victim blaming, or that's what people call it. I do not believe in that, but that is the reality that we deal with. And we could have put in all the work, but then when it goes to the point of prosecution, from the time it hits the court, there is this resistance in a lot of cases. People don't want to move further. And we also have the case where it is still stigmatized. Domestic violence, as it was called, gender-based violence or family violence, as it is referred to now, looking at the broader picture, it is still seen by a lot of people as a failing if they leave. Their families may send them back. Their families, these are the things we deal with
still
behind.
happening.
It still is
Still
happening.
happening.
And people feel pressure to stay. There is also the issue of financial independence for women, particularly, and also the issue of children being involved and weaponized too.
Yes.
So you have all of these very complex issues. And I dare say it will take us a long time to completely eradicate. But you ask me how many? 96 persons lost their life. And in the last 2 years, we have seen a decrease in the numbers of cases where it was partner related. We had 12 cases last year, and we have 12 cases to date. Prior to that, in 2020, we had 19 cases. 2021, there were 18 cases. 2022, we had 2022 and 2023, we had between 20 and 23 cases. So what I noticed, and when we analyzed it, during the COVID period, like cases of child abuse, we had an upsurge in cases of violence. What is of concern to me now, and it's something we are investigating and trying to analyze, is the phenomenon where the partners kill the women and then commit suicide.
Correct.
And we are seeing more cases of that. We are also seeing cases where when the perpetrator carries out the violent act, many times over the 5 years, what we've seen in about 25 to 30% of the cases, they would have gone all the way up to the point of the survivor being working with us, or we working with them, and we have a protection order. We have counseling happening. Well, what do? First of all, you call, you report to 914, and we have had 67,000 calls from the time the 914 hotline was established. And every year we have over 10 to 13,000 calls to the hotline. We have a dedicated staff that mans the hotline 24 hours. It's toll free. What can happen? We have crisis intervention. So if it is an active case, it's happening right now, we call the police, we make sure there's intervention, there is removal. We have shelters, we have state-owned shelters, and we have partner shelters as well. So shelter is provided. We have also, from 2022 to 2025, I realized a lot of women didn't want to go to the shelter.
Yeah.
So I started a program where we were paying 3 months rental for persons, and we've continued it, and we will continue to do it. But the new law, which we will speak about just now, the Family Violence Act of 2024, provides in the law for a survivor to stay on the premises in the home or rented apartment. And the perpetrator has to remove themselves. That's in the law. The police now has the discretion of entering a premises once there is reasonable cause to feel that there is an active case of violence happening without a warrant. They have 48 hours to do the report, to charge. So all those discretions that were there before, the Domestic Violence Act was a sound act in 1996, but we have tried to fill the gaps and broaden the umbrella of coverage to family violence, where it's not just two people, it's anyone under the family umbrella. And what we need to see is after the protection order, what happens.
Yes.
I can tell you we have been seeing. One, sometimes women go back to the perpetrator. Many times the perpetrator crosses the boundary, breaches the protection order, and gets into where the woman is and creates havoc, and many times it could end in a fatality. That has happened. Now, the protection order is what we can do. In terms of bail, that is provided for across our legislation. That is the mandate of the courts. And we've been advocating for perhaps higher figures and harsher sentencing, and looking maybe in the future where some of these things will not attract bail. But that's an entirely different conversation that has to happen among several partners. But the intention is to really look at where we have the loopholes. Because the reality is, once someone comes out on bail, nowhere in the world will a policeman follow that person around to know
see
where they are
going.
going. So they can cause harm. And in a lot of the cases you've seen, the Ministry of Human Services would have worked with these persons, some who lost their lives, all the way up to the protection order.
Yeah.
And would have been working with them, providing things like trauma-focused counseling, shelter support, financial support, all the different elements of support that we offer. And then something like that happens. And it devastates us because, we take every case personally, especially when the case is very traumatic and we know of it. We've had cases where, many times I am involved, and at that time, Minister Ben, we would have to personally be involved to track down cases. And we don't go out there and publicize these things, but we are personally involved, and sleepless nights, many days, trying to find a perpetrator, find somebody. They might be posted on social media. There is no information. We
Just
have
a
to
photo
find
and a
them,
name, yeah.
and those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, we want to help them.
Right.
That is what our mandate requires. So this issue of gender-based violence is so multidimensional. And because of the nature of what it is and what we have to do, we know we can't do it alone. So in 2022, we started the Community Advocate Network. And to date, we have 1,200 Guyanese across all regions who work with us. They're on the ground, they work with us, they provide information, they help with reporting, they help with support, and those are things that we want to see continue. And we train them to be able to work with us. We want to expand that. So going forward, because look, we need the help. We are not everywhere. We can't know realistically everything. So between the Community Advocate Network system, the 914 reporting mechanism, and the iMatter app. Now, this was very early in late 2021 into 2022. We worked on the iMatter app, making it the first digital app in the entire Caribbean and Latin America. And the reason we were able to accomplish all of this in that time between 2020 and 2023 is because I signed on to the Spotlight Initiative on behalf of the government of Guyana in October 2020. It was there all the time. No one signed on to it. And we were able, even though we were 8 months late in signing on, after every other country, Guyana was able to set the standard and develop the model that is comprehensive and that the entire Caribbean and Latin America is wanting to have, and Spotlight acknowledged that. In fact, I'm the only minister of government of any country who sat on the board to assess countries and to look at...
What is the Spotlight Initiative?
Spotlight Initiative is an initiative that was done in several countries across the world where there was dedicated work and funding by EU, implemented by UN in partnership with governments and NGOs to tackle violence against women and girls.
Okay.
And so we got support from UNFPA, UNICEF, UN Women, UNDP to do a lot of the groundwork that we needed to do to get these programs off the ground. While they were ideas coming out of the ministry and me and so on, we needed that kind of technical support and funding. And so we were able to do a lot of that. And we were able to have the law, and we were able to do that with support from the Ministry of Legal Affairs and also the Spotlight Initiative. We were able to do the gender-based violence policy framework, the gender-based violence policy, the harassment policy, the draft harassment bill. All those things are there. And we have also developed this kind of broad system that I'm speaking of. So iMatter came out of that, and we built an app where when you open the app, and we have had over 1,000 downloads of the app from the Google Store. We don't have the figures of the Apple Store. We can't access that, but there are probably more. And you have a panic button when you open the phone that connects you to 914. You have all the resources that exist across the country, where to go, who to go to, what is GBV, and it's done in a very age-targeted way. So you have for teens and all of that. And we have recently, as in this year, done a live chat feature. So people can chat with us if they can't call us, and we are able to respond whether with counseling or action. We are working on two things. You've heard the president speak about having a panic button
Yes.
And so that is an initiative that will kickstart, and where the thinking is coming from. And I was saying that we need to have something where women who are at the highest risk, they have come to us, we know they are at risk, they've gotten a protection order, they can have this panic button. And so once the panic button is utilized, it alerts not only us, but the police. So we respond immediately. Now, the next one that we're working on directly is using the iMatter app and putting a silent alert system on that. And this is going to be brand new. So you're putting that in the hands of everybody, practically, once you have a phone.
The panic button on the iMatter app.
Yes.
That already exists.
It already exists.
And the one that the president announced is
It's a separate,
feature.
like a separate thing
You can,
that you're
like
not on the
tangible.
phone. It's tangible.
Okay.
But the other one that we are going to do is the silent alarm system that is on the iMatter app. So we're building out that ability to use a device you have all the time on you and ensuring that it networks and there's connectivity to the response system. So those are some of the main things. And the other thing that I noticed too when we looked at it were two things, if I say. One, there was no one to walk somebody through this thing.
Right.
You might be experiencing it, you don't know where to go, you're terrified. So we developed the Survivor Advocate program. And so now when someone reaches out to us, they're assigned to a Survivor Advocate. This is a person who takes them from reporting to every other service they need, all the way to the conclusion of their case.
Walk them through the process.
Yes.
Support.
Yes.
as well.
So you will also see us pushing to have more Survivor Advocates across the country. So we have more of these resources. So
How
that
many
so we have 20.
advocates?
So we have 27,
Okay.
and it fluctuates. Sometimes it is less, because people leave and they move into like another programmatic area or they move on to other things. So that program, and also we have to ensure that the police is trained. We have trained from 2021 to 2023, 50% of the Guyana police force. We would have trained them in the legislation, case management, professional engagement, and the program is called, I came with name, Cop Squad.
Yes.
At that time, 2000, because I had this ambitious idea of 2,000 policemen being trained. We exceeded that number, so it's just Cop Squad. But they now are pinned with a badge that says to a person going in the station, that's a person who's trained with us. We have amplified that since, and we have gone beyond the classroom setting. We have been going to police station by police station. I've been on some of those, and we are training the entire station. So from top level to junior ranks, they will be trained on the new Family Violence Act and all of the other elements necessary for their response. I will also be presenting to the new Minister of Home Affairs, in collaboration with UNFPA, the entire program that could be put into the academy, the police academy, on training in this way. So we are targeting when you come to the police academy and continuing education. It is completed, and I will have the pleasure of presenting that to her so that it is something she can utilize from our end, looking at this issue of gender-based violence, domestic violence, family violence. And in addition to that, the other thing I noticed was that people may report, but they might not get a medical, or they may do one or not any of these things because they didn't know where to go. So the thought of the Hope and Justice Center was born. In fact, probably about 10, 15 years ago, I went to South Africa, and I went to a conference, and I was listening to persons from various agencies from around the world, including Doctors Beyond Borders, and they do work all over the world. And they were talking about several strategies employed globally and so. And I came back with the idea. Then I never knew I was going to be sitting here. And I thought, why not have an integrated, comprehensive system where you put all the services under one roof? It would be cost effective, it would be a friendlier environment for persons to report, and it removes the barriers. It's not a stigmatized place. So came the idea of the Hope and Justice Centers. And I must thank the Attorney General for partnering with the Ministry of Human Services on this through the Impact Justice System and IDB. And so Hope was the part given by me, and Justice was coming from him.
Yeah.
And we put these two together, and what we have now and what we've had for almost 2 years is one in Lusignan and the other in Virgin, 2 centers, and we've had traffic of going to 2,500 persons going into those institutions. So it's like a year and a half roughly. And what they can do, they come right there, they make the police report, the medical is done right there, they have a survivor advocate, they get counseling, and they're put in the system, they have legal help. We have something that I introduced and did it in partnership with Guyana Bar Association called Legal Pro Bono. At that time, attorney at law Pauline Chase was the president of the Guyana Bar Association. And in signing off, we put right there 500 cases per year to be done free of cost for any person that experiences violence. And so that is also there at the Hope and Justice Center. And from the Ministry of Legal Affairs, you have attorneys, and they focus on that as well as restorative justice. So it's a very compact model, and I've had the pleasure in 2023 of taking my Caribbean counterparts to visit these centers, and a lot of them would like to mirror that in their countries so that they can have that kind of umbrella engagement. But, as I tell you this, what we need to realize, and we look at the figures and we're seeing all these numbers coming in, is that men are affected, but 80% of women tend to be recorded, and the men are slowly increasing in number. And this year's 333 men would have made reports as compared to any other year, if I have to say.
Reports of domestic violence. Yeah. So that's one thing I wanted to clarify with you. You said 96 deaths recorded between 2022. Now, does that include the men as well? Because we've had some cases
yes,
of
and
women
all
killing their husbands or partners.
all the cases would have been just partner reported that I mentioned in the 96. Yeah.
Okay.
And all of these programs and services that your ministry is offering for victims of domestic violence also targets men.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you something that was the missing part of the entire thing. Okay. So they do, because the programs are gender neutral.
Correct.
But men tend to think that when we respond, it doesn't really move in their direction. So we did several things. We have the Bridging the Gap policy that focuses on men in particular. Coming out of that were several things: the Brave Centers and the Partnership and Relationship Assessment Program. So the first Brave Center was started in 2025, this year, in Region 3. These centers are not labeled. We're not stereotyping men. We're not labeling men, because not all men are perpetrators. What we're looking at is prevention, intervention, rehabilitation. How do we do it? So those centers are for prevention, awareness, and intervention. If the person has already been charged by the court, we have the probation department that deals with those cases, which is different, it's post-charge. But these centers work with men on empowerment, toxic masculinity, fatherhood, relationships, and there's a whole gamut of work that we do there so that the focus is totally on men. And we are developing the staffing capacity right now so that we are able to do more of these centers across the country. It's something I want to see amplify, because there is a need. When we opened Region 3, we were pleasantly surprised. A lot of men came in. They didn't want to leave the sessions. So we are happy to see that. Right in that vicinity, we have opened our youth-friendly space as well. So there are different hours. So we're working with boys as well. You can't only work with the adult men. You have to work with the boys who will be the men.
Yeah.
So we've started the youth-friendly spaces, and we have 10 earmarked for this year. We have opened 6, and there are special programs that we are working on only through the Child Care and Protection Agency, only targeting boys. And we are partnering the 2 agencies, the Sexual Offenses Domestic Violence Unit with the Child Care and Protection Agency, and with support from the Family Enhancement Services Unit to focus on juveniles when it comes to engaging in violence, looking at behavioral patterns, looking at bullying. We have all of these programs already. So it's taking them outwards and ensuring that we have the human resource to be able to deliver. That has always been a challenge. I mean, everything is as good as not only the numbers of persons that you have, but the persons who bring the necessary skill, the compassion, the empathy, and those kinds of things that are so needed in this. So the partnership aspect of the program, and that is in line with something called CUTE. This is another program that we are starting through the probation department. Both of these are going to be looking at relationships. CUTE looks at couples. Now,
That's a cute name.
so first when they developed the name, it sounded to me like Cutlass, and I said, you can't put an acronym like that.
Right.
So they came with CUTE. And this is working directly with couples perhaps early in their relationship, but definitely couples having problems. But the partnership part,
What types of problems?
maybe they might have emotional issues, communication issues, anything really. And we have all the departments. We teach and we work with people generally on conflict resolution, anger management. Those are two elements we've put in the Brave Centers as well, because anger is a thing that is normal and healthy, but when it erupts and it's not channeled, it can lead to violence and people getting hurt and harmed. And so we have those programs. So CUTE and the PAR program will focus heavily on relationships. The PAR program focuses heavily on men in relationships. How do you approach your relationship? If there's a problem in a relationship, everyone has a problem. How do you as a man deal with it? And it's not going to be a woman telling you how to deal with it. We're trying to develop a cadre of men who are going to be manning this program. Okay, yeah. So
this is to be rolled out soon.
the Brave Center is there, but this element of it of PAR and CUTE, both of them will be in 2026.
Minister, you listed a number of programs and services, both for men, women, children, the elderly. How does one access these services?
Very easily. Yeah. You can walk into any Hope and Justice Center. You can walk into the ministry. You can call 914. All of these services are free. They're open to everyone. They run from the coastland to the hinterland. And while I mentioned the two coastal Hope and Justice Centers, we also have one in Mabaruma in Region 1, making us the first country to have a center that is a social services hub with the Hope and Justice element in the hinterland. And that is one we are working to resource. And because I noticed in the hinterland there was difficulty getting persons who were trained, you will see rolling out very soon the paraprofessional training program that we're working on under the WIN banner, but in partnership with the University of Guyana and their social work department, along with the Professional Social Workers Association, to fill that void, whereas persons who are desirous of going into social work, this is the launch pad. We train you, you work with us, and you have an open door to IDCE and the social work program. So it is targeting that because, look, let us face it, 10 people or 20 people can't target and be successful in dealing with the magnitude of what these social issues bring with them.
Definitely.
Minister, I want to touch on two things that you mentioned. I really love that idea about the CUTE program because healthy relationships and navigating that, sometimes the issues in going through that is what often or sometimes leads to some of the violent cases that we see. And I really think that it's an important program. And I want to get your take on degrees of control in a relationship. There are some women who will be looking at this program, they're interested in this CUTE program, and they want to have an understanding from you. You know, what are your thoughts on certain issues in interacting with a partner? For example, privacy issues. What are some red flags? Like, for example, your partner running your phone, your partner telling you you're not allowed to go here or there. What are some red flags as we await this program that you'd say they should be on the lookout for?
Yes. No, you highlighted some of the main aspects. They would be big red flags in my opinion. And I think when one goes into a relationship, people go into relationships for many reasons. And every relationship must have boundaries. And I think when someone enters a relationship, they must discuss those boundaries, maintaining an independent space, maintaining one's independence, maintaining the ability to have open communication channels, frank communication, because a lot of what is happening too could be miscommunication, could be interference from a third party, could also be social media. And then, of course, there's the healthy dose of jealousy that we see in a lot of relationships that tend to have people running somebody's phone. And what happens is the control phenomenon where there's gaslighting, there is emotional manipulation, and there's also pulling a person away from the, I'm using that simple language, pulling a person away from family and friends and making them seemingly diminished in their own eyes. They will be blamed for things that really it's not their fault. They will be told that they're no good, and then that control mechanism,
their confidence,
exactly,
isolating them
exactly.
from their family
And women
friends.
have to guard against that. And a lot of women see these things, they hear these things from their friends, but sometimes they're so emotionally caught up in the relationship they don't leave. Or sometimes it is not only the emotional end of things, it's the financial security end of
Correct.
things. Because look, yesterday I have an open day every Tuesday, and I saw quite a few persons and many different issues. And one or two of the women said to me, but this is all I know. This is all I know. When I go out there, then what? And I said, but try our support services and gradually, move yourself away from that. But it's harder. And we've seen this to work with women who are more alienated from everyone else. When there's that total control, some women can't even leave their house without their partner. Some women, this word empowerment. I've had men tell me, when you say empowerment, they tell me like this, when you say empowerment, is only women you're talking about. I'm like, no, we can empower men too. And why are you afraid of empowerment? See it as a team strategy where when she's empowered, she can help you in the home.
Correct.
Both of you can go out to earn, but it is always that fear of
She's gonna
somebody
fight.
exceeding the other one, or somebody going out there and another person seeing them. There are all those dynamics to a
Find someone
relationship.
better when
And
you're
it sounds
working.
as though you're also talking about some of the characteristics of toxic masculinity.
Toxic masculinity.
And those are some of the issues that the Brief Center, I understand, would be dealing with.
No, Kian and Fariz, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the Brave Center. Anything I've said is going to fix anything that we want to fix in 10 days, 2 months, or even a year. It's a process. And we are dealing with cultural ways of relationship management. We're dealing with different psyches. We're dealing with different behavioral patterns that may be engendered by exposure experiences growing up as children. We have seen, children see their parents dealing with conflict or dealing with anything using violence and kind of language they use.
And that becomes normalized.
And that
for
becomes
them.
normalized. So we're not dealing with a simple issue. We're dealing with a very difficult
And
issue.
arranged weddings still happen. You're marrying someone you don't know. You don't know their behavior, their characters, the family background. So that also factors into the relationship you're gonna be
I
in.
think we're seeing less of those, but I also think, and this is just a personal opinion, some people know the red flags before they even concretize their relationship.
Correct.
They're aware of it. They're told about it. They know of it, and yet they go into it. And this is not me saying that to anybody you're wrong or so, but it's just the reality that exists. And we tend to think that this happens only in a particular social bracket. It's across the board.
Correct.
And a lot of times you see people coming out there, and behind closed doors, it's a whole other thing. And a lot of women from different brackets would have come to me and say, we're comfortable talking with you, but this is what's happening. And a lot of them say, my partner is well known. When he goes out there, he projects an image, or when he goes out there, he's a certain status or strata, and we just don't know how we will talk about this because we will be judged. And then there is the social media angle of things where everything is out there. And so people, in some ways, they're terrified because they don't want to be out there being bashed on social media, being stigmatized. And so there are all these things. So the thing is, though, I would say when you go into a relationship, go in eyes wide open as much as you can and have have a couple of people around you who will be frank with you, and you know they're frank with you. So when they're telling you something, it is not because they're telling you, they really have your best interest of heart. Don't lose that to anybody, male or man. Or I had a case a while, not so long ago. A male came to me and said, this lady who is aggressive made complaints against me, but I'm the opposite. She actually beats me up, and I leave the home. But I'm being blamed for something, because so you have that too. So that's why I'm saying, any person, when you're going to have those people that you can count on who can see it, but also be wary of those people who will perpetuate the violence because they're filling your head with negative things. Sometimes women will say, I went to work, I came home, I didn't go anywhere else, but my husband's friend will say he saw me doing this, or she saw me. And there are those things, the third party interference. You will also find parental or familial interference, where certain behavioral patterns are encouraged, where males are thought to think, well, if you have complete dominance over a woman, that's what it is. That's what you should be. But you see, the more of these we see, that's what we're teaching younger people. So there's a program too for that we started and piloted in Region 6, and we are moving it outwards. It'll be amplified. It was through the Spotlight program, Foundations. It targets its 13 to 25-year-olds, and we focus on the issue of violence. And we are putting that in all our youth-friendly spaces. We've gone into schools. We've gone into at least 30 schools per year. And we have focused on bullying, violence, use the Foundations program, and I'll be presenting to Minister of Education the policy, the programs, and some of the work that we have done so that she can choose. I know she's doing a consultation and she's going to do a few other things, but she can have some access to what we are doing as well, because we've done a good bit of work. But I believe that all of this needs to be consistent, whether in the school, in the home, in the community. There's got to be consistent work.
Has to be across the board too. Yeah.
You see, a child may get all the good stuff at school, but then they go back home to the environment. Or vice versa, whichever. And then that child becomes a very troubled child,
Minister, I know we spoke about the lives lost, but how many women has the system been able to save?
Quite a lot of women. In fact, in terms of the numbers of calls we have had 100% intervention. 100% intervention in all the calls that we have gotten to date. Yeah.
That's commendable.
Yes,
And
it
they're in the
is.
thousands.
Yes.
They're in the thousands.
And Minister, you spoke about a harassment bill that is coming, and
Well,
I think that's
Those are very sensitive areas. We have a bill on harassment, a policy on harassment. We've had a lot of consultations. Those are things that I suppose as they unfold and as they become concretized, we have drafts. We can speak more on those things. But you see, violence in all of its forms, sexual, physical, interpersonal, some people say, we don't really say that now, we speak of gender-based violence, all of these things, they start from somewhere, and sometimes they're perpetrated too with the complementary harassment. And it's a thin line in a culturally warm society like the Caribbean. And I say that because things that in another part of the world people will say and term harassment are things that we do and we take for granted.
Yeah.
Like someone may throw their arm around and say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And it's
or the soups in office we were causing it.
Well, that I don't like that.
Well, I have been a
But-
victim of harassment. I can tell you for a fact, Minister, that's the reason why I really don't walk the streets, because I have heard things that men say to me as I walk the streets.
So, Fariza, you and a lot of women, I remember a young woman, we had an open mic at one of our sessions on 16 Days of Activism a couple of years ago, and she broke down in tears. She said, I don't walk the streets because of the disturbing and frankly nasty things people
Right.
say about my body, about me, what they want to do. And I don't think anybody should be facing that. And that's why we haven't called it sexual harassment. We've said harassment because
Right,
it
it's a
happens
broad.
in so many ways. But the street harassment, the enough, as you say, it's not only that, it's the commentary
That follows
that
it.
follows, and it violates people.
Yeah.
Men and women violates people, and people are very scarred by this. People might say, "Oh, that's stupidness. We've done that all the time,
Or you're
and
sensitive.
you're sensitive." But no, we are moving into a different environment. There are things like grooming that we talk about now that start with some form of putting your hand around the shoulder and these. So we have to be very conscious about the bigger problems that these things can lead to. And harassment has crossed the boundaries of just physical harassment. We have a bill, an act rather, cyber crimes. You talk about stalking on the net. You have all of these dimensions that previously, if you ask people 30 years ago, 40 years ago, what on earth are you talking about?
Correct.
But
Talking
these
about
are real.
social media too, Minister, one of the things I see being weaponized as well, men who are men and sometimes even women, they release photographs that have been given to them on the internet as a means of vengeance or being vindictive or getting back. I mean, it's really troubling. So I suppose the bill will also
So
tackle
some
that
of that,
aspect
but
of
some of
harassment.
it is also captured in the existing act. But the nude thing, when nude and photos and all of these things, I always ensure that in all the programs dealing with young people, we talk about it. Because people don't think beyond the moment when they do those things. What could be the repercussions, the consequences later on when those things have the potential to be released? And we've seen a lot of young people become mentally unhinged because of those things. They go into depression, all kinds of things happen. So here again, it's a personal choice to do that. But here again, you have to think, if I do this, then what? Not that I'm saying to the person who releases it, you get a free pass. Absolutely not. Because you may have had a discussion about it or you may have agreed. But the reality is we're living in a world where things change like this. A relationship could be wonderful this week and next week it's not. And the point is, everything can go on the internet.
Yeah.
And it does. And what I tell people, it doesn't disappear. So it stays there. Whether you think you're deleting things or not, it's there somewhere. So you have
screenshot it, still have it up
you have to be
somewhere.
careful. And then the effects of that is devastating to a person when they're out there like that. But we have to be, and a lot of the education we're going to be focusing on, you'll see that in 20. We're doing a big awareness campaign. We are really ramping up our awareness on all the cases of child abuse, gender abuse, and all that. And you will see a lot of emphasis too being placed on the media, where we want them to be very, very proactive partners with us on these kinds of things, how they report cases, when things are placed, how they should be placed. And I know there's the formal and informal media,
Right.
and we plan to engage the informal media, social influencers, those persons. We plan to engage them too, because the internet, social media is a very big thing. We can't get to everybody, but at
Right.
least people could understand what are the ramifications of some of these things and what the scarring impacts are and the trauma impacts are on the person.
Minister, you touched on something earlier that I want us to delve into a little bit. A woman she's abused, she makes a report, but doesn't want to really pursue the matter. But the evidence is there that she's been abused. Does it end there if she doesn't want to give a statement? What can the police do? Can they still charge this person?
No. What you have asked is something we have sat down for hours and discussed. There are different pieces of legislation around the world where the state can continue. Here we use the witness or the person. And if they drop charges, unfortunately, we cannot. If I had my way, we would do exactly that. We continue to prosecute. There are several clauses in the Family Violence Act that gives us some leeway, but not the total one you were talking about. And then there's also a clause there, two clauses. If a person is complicit in or actually does put forward a charge that is false, there are repercussions in the law. If there's a vexatious clause too. If you go 55 times to the court, I'm being a little extra there, and you don't follow through, you can also be held accountable. mean, there are lots of elements in the law. We sat and we pounded this over and over. And the good thing about the law is it could be amended. So some of those things, like that one, different things I would probably want us to sit back down on and have a look at it and see where we can go realistically. Because the good thing about every law, it has the potential to be amended. And when we see things rising up, we can go back to the drawing board.
And we also spoke about children. If we can turn our attention to them a little bit more. Now, there are ongoing concerns, as you're aware, about the plights of children, abused children especially. Can you tell us a little bit more about the programs that you have to rescue some of these children from abusive homes?
So they would have had over 2,800 reported cases. Of that, we found 2,600 plus of those to be actual cases.
Wow.
And every one of those cases would have been investigated at 2,000, because we had to investigate all to come to that. Now,
Are these cases of sexual abuse?
varying. Now, the topmost cause is neglect, not sexual abuse as you would think of it. In fact, in the highest percentage is neglect, then comes physical abuse, then comes sexual abuse. In terms of perpetrators, the people at the top of the list are actually mothers, then fathers, then anyone else. And so when we speak of abuse, it includes neglect. So it's not just 2,000 plus cases of sexual abuse. Right. So what we have been doing, several things. We have started 3 years ago the Street Light Project. This was a recognition of children on the street for various reasons. Children on the street begging, yes, but children on the street engaging in all kinds of things. That is neglect. And so we have picked up 30 children this year, and we have worked with not only the child, but their families. We've worked with those children through Child Protection Agency or the Family Enhancement Services Unit. The FES unit has a structure where they do what we call a YSET test. That was worked on with us through USAID. It's an upgraded test of the entire family situation, where we work with child and family to have a semblance of less dysfunctionality or more normalcy in the home. And we work with everybody. Through the child care agency, 50% of that 30, we would have directly assisted them with everything from support on welfare, helping with employment, you name it, we have done it. What we are looking harshly at is recidivism, a recurrence of the issue. And we find some people do that. And if you look at the numbers of children we have picked up from the road, for example, all of them have parents and families. It's not that they don't, but their parents and families need to be more cognizant of where they are and what they're doing. So this program will be expanded, and we've developed a rapid response team. Now, this was started for several reasons, because I recognize in the nights you have cases coming. So we needed to have a whole... What was going on was the officers who work in the day, we had to find them, send them out. Sometimes you couldn't. You have to get the director herself going, or whoever needed to go, and things like that. So we're developing a whole team that works all through the night so that they can go out and, as the name suggests, rapid response, quickly, efficiently, and ensure that children are not on the streets or anywhere that they shouldn't be. And when a report is made, that action can happen right then. It's moving it in a whole different direction. It will not be 100% perfect, but it is getting the system to that level where it needs to be more responsive. We do have a shortage, a severe shortage of child protection officers. We continue to employ our officers as fast as we can have them, because what we are seeing is not only are we trying to respond to everything with what we have to really build capacity to do this kind of thing the way I would like to see it happen. And so when there are cases of child abuse, once we are notified, in whatever way we are notified, and here again, I must tell people, don't post children's pictures on social media. Don't do that. If you want to report, police station, Child Protection Agency, 914, and give us the details so we can find the child. Because when you don't help us to find the child, then we're shooting in the dark, and we spend a longer time trying to find these children, get them out of the situation, and help them. People say, well, child protection removed the child, and sometimes parents will say, child protection removed my child, and we can't breach the confidentiality of the issue. But I can in general tell you, sometimes at home, there is abuse happening. It could be incest. It could be sexual abuse from a third party that has been brought into the home.
Correct.
It could be many times a family member. Most times that happens. And when all of these things happen, we are mandated by law to remove the children from the unsafe environment. Now you're going to say, where are putting them?
Yeah.
We have state homes and we have private homes. And in all of that, we have over 350 children in state care right now. And
That's a lot.
a lot. But it's telling you the enormity of the issue.
Yeah.
And when we remove children, that's not it. We do a forensic interview where the child's voice is heard, except when it's a baby or toddler, someone that cannot. But when the child says in that interview, which has the police, the child protection officer, could have a family member, you have a certain number of people who are there. It's carried out in a specific way where the child is protected. Nobody is around the child, just the interviewer. And that's done only once. And we do this at our child advocacy centers. We have in every region. We're developing Guyana's first state-owned forensic interview unit. You will see that in 2026. And that's going to be housed at our Hope and Justice Center in Region 3. So that will yield more capacity to do these interviews at a faster pace. Right now, we are in partnership with ChildLink and Blossom Inc. We have heavily subsidized both of these NGOs, and we have done this all 5 years that I've been here. And their mandate is to do the forensic interviews and to provide at least 16 sessions of post-trauma focused counseling. And so when the children give their statement, that's taken to the DPP. And then the DPP makes a decision on what is next. At no point in time can that be influenced by anyone in the sense that I can go in or anyone go in. That's done in that environment. And so whatever the child says, whether yes or no, that's what we are bound by. Sometimes we do know, we have our suspicions that yes, something is happening, but the child says no.
Indeed.
Yeah, and then they have to do a medical report as well. So it's a whole series of things. We have to counsel the children. We have to keep them. We have to keep them safely. We can choose also outside of state care or private homes to put them in foster care or put them with a biological family member who has nothing at all to do with the situation. There are options. But we have had children who are so sexualized, and I'm being very open with the public here, that they will not only stay in the institution or wherever, they'll want to go back to that type of behavior. So it's not a simple thing of just keep the child. Yeah. It's really working in a very deep way or an in-depth way with the child to make sure that all those things are dealt with. We have a psychologist on board. We are trying to expand our psychologist team because those are the kinds of cases we have to deal with. And so we've been working with University of Guyana. We have trained a number of our officers because I asked them to do 2 programs at UG when I came in, one on grief and trauma-focused counseling, and the other on specializations in social work. By the way, we are about ready to launch out our social workers bill, which speaks to licensing, regulation, and accountability. So that's in final draft. So that's one that's coming up. But the whole idea is to build the capacity of what we have so that, we can really cater to the needs of children.
Fariza, before you wrap up, if you just indulge me one last question. Minister, you mentioned about the juvenile centers briefly. How many children do we have in these centers? What's the plan or strategy to reintegrate them into society? And what's the state of affairs of these centers?
So there's several things. We have the state-owned homes that will have has just over 100 plus children, and the privately owned homes with 200 plus children. Now, government gives a subvention annually to the private homes. The First Lady has a program with Adopt a Home, so they get some level of support there. And the intention is not to keep any child in a home longer than is necessary. So we have the reintegration and reunification policy.
Okay.
And one of the things I noticed when I came into government was that there was not always a plan for every child, and children were just left in the homes. Some had no choice, but others could have been reintegrated. So we started this process 2 years ago where we were looking at the plan per child and reintegration, reunification. That has significantly ramped up this year, and you will see more of that. Now, it is a very sensitive thing because when you reintegrate and unify, you have to make sure there are no perpetrators around. You have to make sure there's no access to that child by anybody who could cause them. So it takes some time.
This policy also covers the juvenile holding center.
So no, that is separate,
Okay.
a separate policy. But in terms of their well-being, that is where the policy goes, following their placement in some, whether state care or private care institution, where they would have been placed by child care for an abusive situation or any situation as matter.
Okay.
The juvenile hold processing center falls under this ministry that's now being constructed, and the idea behind that was that we didn't want children to pass through the regular rigors of an adult when they went to the police station and going into jail and all that kind of thing and
Handcuffed and-
all these things. So there's a Juvenile Justice Act,
Right.
and that was amended under our government in the last term. And so the Juvenile Processing Center nicely fits into there because it's not only the center, it's how we deal with the children that come through there. The holding center falls under the Ministry of Home Affairs,
Okay.
and they have a juvenile justice department as well. And then there's the NOC that falls under the Ministry of Home Affairs. But because the things are so closely aligned, there has always been partnership
Partnership.
Yeah.
between the two ministries.
Yeah.
Understand.
Minister, it has been a privilege to have you on this
Thank you.
podcast. We have learned so much, and I'm sure our audience as well. I mean, there's so many programs that I didn't know was being done by your ministry. So it's really good to sit here and to be able to listen to you tell us about it in the most eloquent manner possible. And our audience as well, and for victims of domestic violence, they please utilize the 914 hotline. Help is just on the other end of that phone call. This has been Starting Point. Join us again next week, same time, same place.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Starting Point. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for critical updates and exclusive content.